Fault that this virus came from a faraway land. Fault that this, as well as additional relief to those who are unemployed as a result of the virus. Very importantly, I'm also looking at a term-limited suspension of the payroll tax, something that has great support from many, many sides, especially some of our top economists and some people that we have great respect for. So we're looking at a suspension of the payroll tax. The Democrats are primarily interested in a $1 trillion bailout of the poorly run states. We have some states and cities, you know them all. We don't have to go through names, but they've been very poorly run over the years.
What about Republican cities?
We can't go along with the bailout money. We're not going to go along with that, especially since it's not COVID related. Earlier today, I met with a great governor, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey. Has really done a fantastic job beyond even the COVID situation, which you've been reading about as it pertains to
kept tidying the figures, had a spike, record number of deaths.
That is a model for applying a science-based approach to the decrease
Arizona?
in cases and hospitalizations without implementing a punishing lockdown. Arizona's record in reducing the spread of the virus while maintaining hospital capacity and allowing society to continue functioning and functioning very nicely, very successfully.
Yeah, with the 6,700 people who showed up at your rink.
Our path forward can work in other states.
This is Arizona.
Arizona has a record, and a record really to be proud of. It's reduced the number of daily new cases by over 75%.
Reopened here.
Cut the positivity rate in half and reduced ER visits by 2/3, all the while keeping the economy functioning and functioning really well.
No.
When cases surged in June, the Vice President and Dr. Burke visited Arizona to consult with Governor Ducey. They had long consultations with Governor Ducey and his staff, and the Vice President has been in constant contact ever since. My administration is also collaborating with the state and local officials across the South and Midwest to provide similar guidance. We had a great relationship with the representatives in Arizona, and it's been such a successful endeavor. The federal government has supplied or delivered more than 400 million pieces of personal protective equipment
to
Arizona, along with nearly 70,000 vials of remdesivir. We've provided over
Arizona's positivity rate, they are 5th in the nation. That's good management. 5th in the nation in terms of positivity rate, which Trump has said is so. It's so much better than it was. It's still 13.5%. It was as high as 29. That's poor management.
We provided over $18 billion in economic support to Arizona, including more than $8.6 billion to support over 80,000 small businesses. So we really have been...
This just tells us that Trump is behind in Arizona. That's what this tells us.
Helping Arizona, and it's gotten tremendous results. Our goal is to protect the most vulnerable, increase recovery rates, you know that, and it's something so important. And prevent hospital overcrowding, all the while avoiding the kind of stringent lockdowns that would inflict substantial suffering. In this phase of the battle, we have the tools, resources, and knowledge to implement a targeted approach as we race to deliver a vaccine. And we are really working very hard on the vaccine, and we're doing. They're doing a fantastic job. I've been meeting with officials of some of the greatest companies in the world, and meeting with scientists, and they're getting very close. If not there, they're getting very close. They're testing. Any proper analysis of infection control measures must take into account the short-term and long-term public health harms, including death caused by a far-reaching shutdown. When you shut down, you have many, many things that happen, from suicides to depression to drinking,
drug use,
alcohol problems.
Absolutely nowhere near 160,000.
The problems with marriages. It-
Oh, because you might have
people
marital problems.
Confined to their house, their apartment, for long periods of time. You cause a lot of problems with that also.
Yeah.
Instead, Arizona.
If your spouse can't stand to be around
The governor
you,
advised residents to
it's a
aggressively
bigger problem
social
than the
distance when
coronavirus.
possible and maintain strict hygiene. The state encouraged mask use in crowded public places, especially when social distancing is not possible. The governor also exercised his
just
discretion
say at
to
all times, and
restrict
don't be in
capacity
crowded public places.
at indoor locations to limit the possibility of super spreading. It's a big thing. My administration
There should be no crowded public places. That's the whole point of social distances. Don't crowd. Don't go into crowds.
surged treatments. We got them a lot of treatments and therapies to the state, including nearly 70,000 vials of remdesivir, enough to treat over 11,000 patients, and it's been very successful, I might add. My administration also delivered PPE and point-of-care testing to over 100 Arizona nursing homes. In total, the federal government has provided massive amounts of masks and equipments and gowns, and you know some of those numbers. But Arizona was a very big beneficiary, and they very much received, very much
He said
really,
beneficiary.
appreciated. More than 1,000 National Guard and medical personnel have also been deployed in Arizona.
Personnel.
And they've really helped.
Personnel.
They've been terrific, and I want to thank them. They have been brave and brilliant, combination of both. We also supported our tribal communities. The tribal communities were hit very, very hard. Governor Ducey and I personally delivered rapid testing systems to the Navajo Nation, which has been really in originally bad shape and now getting better and very, very quickly. The Navajo Nation now has one of the highest levels of testing per capita anywhere in the world. We really worked very hard on the tribal areas and in particular, in this case, the Navajo Nation. They've done incredibly well. Overall, Arizona has conducted over 1.1 million tests, more than the entire nations of Japan, Mexico, and Switzerland. Arizona's per capita testing is higher than Germany, South Korea, France, and Canada. And tribal governments in Arizona have received nearly $1.3 billion for the coronavirus relief fund. Meanwhile, outdoor dining, limited indoor dining, and most of the other businesses in Arizona have remained open and very vibrant. They're doing incredibly well. This is an approach, and it's an approach that's been incredibly successful. Arizona has been able to protect high-risk populations and quickly bring its outbreak under control without the need to impose overly punitive measures. Thanks to advances in treating the virus, the fatality rate across all age groups in Arizona is very low. Arizona's scientific and data-driven strategy also preserved hospital capacity, ensuring that those who need care were able to receive it and receive it immediately, very quickly. At the peak, approximately 15% of beds remained available statewide. That was at their peak, with roughly 20% of all occupied beds going to patients hospitalized for the virus. They kept other things going. They kept other forms of operations going. They kept elective surgery going. Did a really amazing job. Today, only 6% of the current hospitalizations in the state are related to the China virus. Arizona has also demonstrated success in protecting the state's African-American population. Only 5% of patients hospitalized were African-American, and African-Americans represent just 2% of all deaths from the virus. As it has worked to contain its outbreak, Arizona has also been formulating a plan to get children safely back to school as soon as possible. We want our schools open all over the country. We want our schools open. Arizona's worked very hard on this, and they're doing very well. The Department of Education is providing Arizona schools with $625 million. They're working very hard, and that's in conjunction with CARES funding. My administration is actively working with other states in the same way we worked with Arizona. In recent weeks, members of the coronavirus task force have visited over 15 states to encourage them to follow our path forward, including Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, Indiana, and Ohio. And I'll be going to Ohio tomorrow. I look forward to it very much. It's a great place and a great state with an excellent
They're
governor.
all great states.
And we look forward to being there tomorrow. Next week, Dr. Burke, we'll be visiting Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And also, I believe they're trying to get in West Virginia, a great place, a great state, and I'm sure that will happen because we'd like it to happen. They'd like to see her. So we're going to try very hard to get the doctor to West Virginia in addition to those states to deliver aggressive, tailored, and targeted guidance. The strategy we're taking to these states will protect those at highest risk while allowing others at a lower risk to safely resume work and school. If we do this successfully, it can be really something incredible because we're talking about a lot of states. We're talking about many, many states. It's really great to see also that Florida, we're coming down. It's coming down and pretty substantially in many locations. And even Miami is starting to come down. Miami was hit very hard. California likewise, and Texas likewise coming down and really starting to be a substantial amount of reduction. It recognizes that prolonged lockdowns impose a wide range of serious public health threats, including higher levels of suicide, drug overdoses, and other significant health harms resulting from the depression that we talked about.
Are you going to say marriages again?
Economic hardship. It's been very tough for the.
Is he just on repeat now? Did I click something? Are we watching the same thing over again, guys? I'm sorry if I did.
Those people that are put in a lockdown position for too long really has been a very tough and harmful situation for many people. The fact is that these harms are not measured daily here or abroad. It makes them really a very serious threat because people don't know exactly what they are and how bad they are. But I think they're very bad. Going forward, we must continue to remain vigilant in shielding the elderly and those with underlying conditions. Approximately half of all deaths have occurred in nursing homes.
Is that old people that yell a lot? You kids, get out of my tree!
And long-term care facilities, which is an incredible number and statistic if you think about it. I also urge Americans to help us stop the spread of the virus. Practice good.
It's not an incredible number or statistic when you think about it. Half of all deaths have occurred within nursing homes. This disease kills old people.
Good hygiene, socially distance, avoid large crowds, and wear a mask where distancing is not possible. It's a patriotic thing to do. If you are sick, isolate yourself, especially from high-risk family members and friends. So important. Isolate yourself from high-risk family members and friends. If you're not feeling well, together,
get yourself a second podium at home.
This safer and stronger than ever. Thanks to the robust federal action in partnership with state and local leaders, new cases of the virus are declining in 80% of the jurisdictions, which is an incredible number. And the overall test positivity rate has declined by 8% since last week. 0 states have seen outbreaks get worse since yesterday, so 0 states.
Since yesterday.
We're also continuing to make
Woo! We did it, everybody.
Of a vaccine.
Days without an injury.
Something so important. Also, therapeutics are on the front burner. We're having tremendous, I think we'll let you know very soon, I think long before the end of the year. We're having tremendous success on therapeutics and tremendous success on vaccines, and we're ready to deliver them literally as soon as they're okayed. This morning, my administration approved $1 billion for Johnson & Johnson, who's been working very hard, and they have something very special to manufacture and distribute 100 million doses of a China virus vaccine as soon as one is available. And again, we think that's going to be soon, and we think we're going to have the vaccines before the end of the year, maybe long before the end of the year. Finally, today I'm pleased to announce that the Department of Justice has issued.
When is long before the end of the year? I want to know.
$35 million in grants to 73 organizations nationwide, providing assistance to human trafficking victims. A terrible thing. You think of human trafficking as being an ancient form of crime. It's not.
How much you want to bet he just looked at the stats at 5 p.m. and didn't include the stats that come in at night and thought, well, these look lower than yesterday. Like if I go into World Meter right now and look at the stats, it's, there's only 320 deaths or whatever. In fact, we can do that. Hold on. Let me just go to World West. But they don't get updated until much, much later. So you have to pick a time to compare it to. How much do you want to bet? He just took the time from a couple of days ago. Let's see here. U.S. It's loading. Let's get back to Trump. I'll update you guys when I see it. World Meter has been slow today.
Because of the internet,
There it is, Susan. So 1,146 deaths today. Yesterday was 1362, but we're not done with today yet, according to World Meter, because they're on Greenwich Mean Time. As of, let's see, cases, 46,000 cases today. Yesterday, 54,000, but again, we still have time left in today. A lot of the West Coast hasn't reported yet.
a very modern crime all over the world, not just here, all over the world, human trafficking. It's usually in women or women and children, but it's, again, because of the internet, it's a terrible situation, never been like this. And also survivors who face heightened
Human trafficking has never been so bad. It's almost like slavery never existed in Trump's world, because human trafficking, taking a bunch of people from Africa, bringing them over and settling America, having them rebuild the White House after it was burnt down. That just not part. What's really bad is from Mexico, they drive, they take a left, and they're in the United States. We need a wall.
dangers during the pandemic. It's actually increased during the pandemic. I guess some reasons are obvious and some reasons are less obvious, but human trafficking, we're working very, very strongly. The wall is up to 277 miles right now.
Is it, though?
And it's going up by the end of the year. It'll be largely finished shortly after the end of the year. And it's had a tremendous impact, a very positive impact on human trafficking, unbelievable impact, actually. My administration will never...
It's having an unbelievable impact on human trafficking. 13 seconds ago, he said that human trafficking is up. So it's having a positive effect on human trafficking?
Rest in our fight against the human trafficking. To me, it's one of the most horrific of crimes. And we work very hard on that. With that, we'll take some questions. Please.
Two quick questions. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, you said that voting by mail is an invitation to fraud. Could you lay out and tell us exactly where the evidence is right now that mail-in ballots in Nevada and other states will lead to widespread fraud?
Well, if you read, even the Washington Post had a terrible story on mail-in, and the New York Times, and many newspapers have had terrible stories. You see them all over the internet. They've had some just horrible stories on mail-in ballots. You look at
where's the
Arizona,
evidence? You see it. It's all over the internet.
No, they have a provision where they don't have to check signatures. So you sign it, and you could have a totally different signature. It's okay. It won't be approved. They have the right to go 7 days after the election for approval. So you're not even going to know who won the state of Nevada.
Are you talking about Nevada? Oh, I just wanted to point out we did call Nevada's Secretary of State's office election division, and the spokeswoman there said that that simply isn't true, Mr. President, and that Nevada will continue to check ballot signatures against voter registration cards. It's done at the county level.
Okay, but that's not what they said when they approved it. They said they're not going to check signatures. They're not going to be able to. And
they
the
didn't.
machinery, which is old, doesn't allow them to. So it's going to be physically impossible for them to do that, especially in a short period of time.
Okay, but now that they've said that, sir, you're fine with it, right? Now that they're checking the signatures, because it's been corrected.
In addition, you have the November 3rd election, and they're allowed to count votes until 7 days after the election. So what does that mean? If Nevada, which is a big state and a great state, a state I like very much, and I think we're going to do very well there, are we going to wait a week after November 3rd if it comes down to Nevada, which it could very well? I don't think so. I don't think it's appropriate. So with all of the bundling that you're going to have, with the harvesting you're going to have, with people being sent ballots all over that that have maybe nothing to do with the state anymore. It's a terrible thing. In New York, they had the Carolyn Maloney situation, and I criticized it badly over the last 2 years and 2 days. I mean, I gave it some very, very strong criticism, and all of a sudden, like a miracle, they just approved the winner. Well, what happened? Did the person
They finished counting the ballots. That's how that works in an election.
that was second concede the race, even though it was very close and all mixed up? They have a terrible situation in New York with the ballots, you know that. And as soon as I said, well, I think you should have a new election, because the election, obviously, they're not going to know what to do. I think you should have a new election. They all of a sudden announced a winner. I assume it was her, but they announced a
So, in Trump's mind, the whole election's out of control. The mail-in, there's fraud. The ballots are everywhere. They have no idea. But as soon as he starts complaining about it, by the way, he's been complaining about it for a couple of weeks, they suddenly declare a winner without all the ballots. Like, what? How does he have this much effect on anything? This is the most narcissistic thing that he's done regarding elections, besides running for president. Anyway.
winner.
But everything is all about Trump.
Well, I don't agree with it. Did somebody speak to the person on the other side, the opponent? Did they do something for the opponent on
They counted the fucking ballots.
the other side? Take a look at Paterson, New Jersey. Take a look at many things. It's all over newspapers what's going on with the mail-in ballot.
Again, the follow-up was, but Nevada will be checking signatures.
They send out millions of ballots. They're totally unprepared to do it. And then they come back in the millions. It's going to be a disaster. I'm doing our country a big favor by bringing it up. And, you know, from a common standpoint, even common sense standpoint, if you look at it just out of common sense and pure, basic, beautiful intelligence, you know, it can't work. Now, Florida's worked very hard for years.
It works in Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Utah, Hawaii. We just need to spread this. Nebraska does a lot of mail-in voting. Florida apparently has done a lot of mail-in voting. New York, the problem with New York was it was a small congressional primary, and they didn't have enough people to count the ballots. That's the problem. So how do we fix that? Federal government, give them some money. Fix the issue. If it's going to happen, fix just pure, beautiful intelligence.
They send out millions of ballots.
Yeah.
Millions of ballots. They're totally unprepared to do it. And then they come back in the millions.
If they're unprepared to do it, then they can't do it. If they send them out, then they're prepared to do it. Otherwise, they don't get sent.
It's going to be a disaster. I'm doing our country a big favor by bringing it up. And, you know, from a common standpoint, even common sense
From a common standpoint,
if you look at it just out of common sense
Uh-huh.
and pure, basic, beautiful intelligence,
Basic,
you know it can't work.
beautiful intelligence.
Now, Florida's worked very hard for years and years on developing a system, and I'm sure they probably have problems also. But absentee ballots are different than mail-in ballots, what you call universal mail-in ballots. Are much different. You have to apply for it. You have to do different things, and it's a much better system, and it's a system that can be reasonably accurate. But there's no system like going
exactly the same in California. I just did this on Sunday. Registered to vote in California because my address has changed. So I got into the LA County system and I said, hey, this is my new address. And they said, do you want to receive, it's a process. Do you want to receive a pamphlet or a ballot by mail? Yes, I do. Do you want to make this permanent? Click this box. That's a process. Same thing for absentee. It's exactly the same thing.
to the poll and voting. So I would like to find out why all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the midst of all of this grief, why is it that they approved the New York race while you asked that question?
Race, sir, there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud
Which one?
there.
Oh, really? Well, then you're
primary.
reading a different newspaper than me. Go ahead, please.
The delivery and the postmark.
Go ahead, please, go.
On the coronavirus, this thing's going away. It will go away like things go away, despite ongoing cases and deaths.
And someday it will.
Claim of reality?
It's going away. No, it'll go away like things go away. Absolutely. It's
Just like me, I'll go away.
It will go away. Please go ahead.
President, you praised,
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Mr. President, you praised Governor Ducey's handling of the epidemic in his state. One of the things that he did was delay the start of public schools opening. Is that a model that governors in states experiencing hotspots should do as the beginning of school does with recreation?
Well, I'd like to see the schools open.
Quick note, I've tried to find the Washington Post article to which Trump is referring that says voter election or mail-in election has so much fraud. I haven't been able to locate a single, even an editorial in the Washington Post that says that in the last 90 days. I suppose I could go back further than that, but if someone does know, shoot me a DM or a YouTube message or whatever, because I can't find it.
Many of the schools, most of the schools will be open.
Good night, Barb.
I can say that Republican areas want to see them open, and the Democrats probably want to keep them closed until after November 3rd because they think it's good for them politically. I actually don't think it's good for them politically. Parents want the schools open. We want them open. We want them open safely. We're going to practice very strong hygiene and all of the other things that I've enumerated many times. But we want to see the schools open.
But you're encouraging states to follow Governor Ducey's model here, and what part of that model was?
Not his model. I just think he's done a very good job. I mean, he's really done a great job. You look at the numbers, you look at...
I'm not talking about his model. I just think he's done a very good job. It's just, I'm not saying anything good or bad about his novel. I just think he's fantastic.
How it's dropped and very rapidly. He's done a great job. He's a great governor. Please.
In an interview this morning, Mr. President, you were talking about opening the schools, and you said children are virtually immune from COVID-19, but children have contracted this virus, and some have died.
When I say that, I'm talking about from getting very sick. If you look at children, I mean, they're able to throw it off very easily. And it's an amazing thing because some flus, they don't. They get very sick and they have problems with flus and they have problems with other things. But for whatever reason, the China virus, children handle it very well. And they may get it, but they get it.
A lot of them die.
It doesn't have much of an impact on them. And
a lot of them have
if you look
what
at the
we
numbers,
think are going to be
the numbers
permanent effects.
In terms of mortality, fatality, the numbers for children under a certain age, meaning young, their immune systems are very, very strong. They're very...
I just want to play that part again. Children. Here we go.
And it doesn't have much of an impact on them. And if you look at the numbers of in terms of mortality, fatality, the numbers for children under a certain age, meaning young, their immune systems are very...
Children under a certain... Young... Okay. So younger than adults?
Very, very strong. They're very powerful, and they seem to be able to handle it very well, and that's according to every statistic.
Is it right?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
It is not according to every statistic, by the way. Do you know how they found that the camp in Georgia had so many cases? Because a bunch of teenagers got sick.
President, at least 2 people connected to Kanye West's effort to get on the ballot have been connected to the Republican Party. Is this
Whose ballot?
Kanye West.
With Kanye
he's getting on the
West?
ballot, including in swing states. And as you know, his wife has raised issues about whether he's having mental issues right now. So my question to you is...
That Kanye West does? I don't know that. Who said that?
Why? Why are we asking questions about Kanye West, green mask guy? Who are you with? I can't even read what his lanyard says. Okay, let's just wait. I mean, we're in a pandemic, and you're asking questions about Kanye West. Oh my God.
His wife said he might be going through an episode. But in any event, my question
I like
to you
him.
is...
I mean,
I don't care about the Kardashians.
I like him. He's always been very nice to me.
Are you aware of any of the
Talking about
efforts...
Kanye West.
Are you aware of, or have you encouraged anyone in the party to help him get on the ballot, including in swing
No,
states?
not at all. No, not at all. Other than
Of
I get
course
along with him
not.
very well. I like him. I like his wife.
What kind of a question is that? Come on, green mask guy. What are you even doing there? I've never seen that guy in there before.
His wife recommended certain people, as you know.
Goldie says he's with the record label. Now it makes sense. Now it all makes sense. You saw it in the visions.
For including Alice
Yay,
Johnson, who's
Gold-
a
or ye
fantastic
Goldie.
woman, but his wife recommended certain people to get out of prison. They were in prison for a long time.
Long time.
It should have never happened, and I took what she said very strong. Kim Kardashian. and he's got a good heart, very good heart. And I like Kanye very much. No, I have nothing to do with him getting on the ballot. We'll have to see what happens. We'll see if he gets on the ballot. But I'm not involved.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you, the group of Republican senators are backing $25 billion in payroll assistance to keep the airlines being able to pay their payrolls.
Aloft?
Do you to endorse that
They're
plan?
doing what Republican senators are
Republican
doing.
senators want to go ahead with another $25 billion for airlines to keep their...
Again, this is the guy who said he's paying very close attention to the proceedings on Capitol Hill. He's like, the what? The senators? What are they?
payrolls going.
Well, if they need it, certainly that's a business. Some businesses are doing better than they would normally. Obviously, we know what those businesses are. And
Do we?
obviously, the airline business is
What? Well, hold on. What business is doing better besides Zoom than they would normally?
not doing very well. You have shutdowns all over the world, and you have airlines that are essentially shut down. Some airlines are doing, modest to best.
By the way, I told you guys earlier that Kevin Lee Daughter is being asked to come back to the show that she was on before. She does background acting. Before the pandemic hit, right when she got on it for about 2-3 weeks, right before it hit, and then everything stopped. Now they're going to start shooting again next week. There's going to be testing every day, sometimes multiple tests per day, so that's wonderful. That the studios have the ability to do that, or in this case, studio. Totally blanked because I'm hearing a buzzing. I hope you guys aren't hearing that buzzing in your ear. My producers are telling me. I don't even know if Rich. Producer Rich it must be Producer Rich. He's watching. Amazon is doing great. You're right. There are some exceptions to the rule, but in terms of airlines doing great, no, airlines are not doing great. Nobody in the transportation sector is doing great. America is not doing great. We do not have this thing under control. Anyway, I was going to tell you something about Kevin Lee Daughter, but let's move on.
They're doing is modest. I think it's very important that we keep the airlines going.
Oh, here's what I wanted to tell you, and this is an impact from the COVID that I don't know that many people have foreseen. Central Casting sent out a notice. They haven't had casting notices forever, but I'll see if I can find it.
Be very good times very soon, I hope. And we don't want to lose our airlines. So if they're looking at that, whether they're Republican or Democrat, I'd be certainly in favor. We can't lose our transportation system. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you too on Beirut. So there's been some question about your comments yesterday saying that it was an attack and that you'd heard from military officials that there was, an explosion that looked like some sort of a bomb.
What it was. I can tell you, whatever happened, it's terrible, but they don't really know what it is. Nobody knows yet. At this moment, they're looking. It could. I mean, how can you say accident? Somebody was, left some terrible explosive type devices and things around. Perhaps it was that.
Divisive. It's ammonium nitrate. It's used in fertilizer, and over time it degrades and becomes highly combustible. And combustible, it becomes explosive. That's combustion.
Perhaps it was an attack. I don't think anybody can say.
Yes, Kevin Lee Daughter's been tested. She's going to get tested again. I can't find the notice because there's quite a few notices, especially for stand-ins. Here's what's going on. Here, I'll show you guys. This is what I can see by doing this, so the notice might be quite a ways down. This is Central Casting looking for people in Los Angeles. See all these pictures? These are lookalikes, so they're looking for lookalikes. Stand-in work and lookalike work is what you want in background because that pays more, especially if it's union. The fact that they're looking for stand-ins to people, if I look like any of these people, let me know. Oh, right there, that's a dead ringer. So the fact that they're looking for people who look like people, and the fact that they're looking for people to be on the show that Panda is on and was on, that tells me one thing. That tells me that a lot of people have moved away, and that's what, when the assistant director contacted Panda, they reached out to her directly. They let her know, yeah, a whole bunch of people have moved away. Los Angeles, same reason I moved out of Los Angeles. It's really damn expensive to live in Los Angeles and many of the other cities. I don't know that we've seen the full impact of how many people have uprooted from where they were, moved back home like I did to Seattle, or moved into another situation, and that's going to disrupt the job industry. Now, it's great if you happen to be working with Central Casting and you stayed locally, more opportunities for you. in the limited opportunities that exist right now. But the shows are starting to come back. That's good news. I don't think the economy, no one has taken into account the fact that there's much more nomadic movement in the economy than we've seen in history. Maybe the wars, but we've never seen anything like this. And I say that Trump-esquely, but it's true. At my old condo, 2 out of the 4 units there, 2 of us moved. Went back home during this. And now I'm back here. So, hey, thanks to you guys. I just want to take a brief moment. A lot of you are patrons of mine. And Phyllis just joined earlier today or yesterday. Forgive me, Phyllis. Again, time has no meaning anymore. It's all Trump time. So Phyllis is now on board as well. So welcome, Phyllis. Good to have you on board. It's folks like you who've been donating on Patreon that make it possible for me to be back here in the Los Angeles area. And Kevin Lee Daughter is extremely grateful to all of you for also making that possible, particularly those who've given us direct assistance, because she got back sort of just in time to get that text saying, hey, can you come back to the show? If not, she couldn't start on Monday. So thank you. Just a quick aside. Let's get back to Trump. But if you'd like to also become a patron, go to kevinleefather.com. You can join me in Patreon there. $1, $5 makes you patron of the arts. $50 makes you a producer. $10,000 makes me your bitch. So get out there.
Right now, we're looking into it very strongly. Right now, it's, you have some people think it was an attack, and you have some people that think it wasn't. In any event, it was a terror.
No, nobody thinks it's an attack anymore. Everything makes perfect logical sense. They know where the ammonium nitrate came from. It was confiscated from a ship that was doing things illegally. It was kept in a building at the port, and for 6 years, the authorities have been asking other authorities to get rid of the damn nitrate because it provides a massive hazard. And as it turns out, the explosion was measured on seismic machines around the globe. It was an earthquake.
Terrible event, and a lot of people were killed, and a tremendous number of people were badly wounded, injured. And we're standing with that country. You know, we have a very good relationship with that country. But
by the way, just watching that explosion yesterday, I knew immediately it wasn't a conventional weapon. The biggest bomb that we have, the non-nuclear bomb, would be the Moab, the mother of all bombs, which we used. It's sometimes called the bunker buster in Iraq. Now, we may have bigger bombs than that we don't know about, and if we do, Trump's going to give it away at some point. But the Moab doesn't produce a blast like that, not from that distance. Moab is, 50,000? Somebody can look that up, but anyway, it doesn't matter. There's no bomb that we have that isn't atomic that puts off that kind of concussive force.
It's a country under a lot of turmoil, a lot of problems, but we stand with them.
Thank you. You said earlier today that you are considering using the White House as the venue for your nomination speech. Senator John Thune questioned whether or not that's actually legal given the Hatch Act. Is this something that you would get clearance for before proceeding?
No, it's legal because Trump he's immune from the Hatch Act. So, and like Kellyanne Conway said, go ahead and charge me with the Hatch Act. Like, come after me. It doesn't mean nobody cares about the Hatch Act. It's like the Logan Act.
All right, the Republican John Thune. Oh, okay. Well, it is legal. There is no Hatch Act because it doesn't pertain to the president. But if I use the White House, we save tremendous amounts of money for the government in terms of security, traveling. If we go to
So how about not golfing every weekend? If you're all about saving tremendous amounts of money for the government.
Another state or some other location, the amount of money is, very enormous. So that's something to consider also.
So every time you travel down to the Winter White House, the amount of money is enormous.
I think it would be a very convenient location. It would be by far the least expensive location. There'd be very little in terms of that tremendous traveling security with airplanes and everybody flying all over the place. So I think it would be a very convenient idea. It's something that we throughout, it would be very cost conscious by comparison to any other location. Yeah, please.
Yeah, your son, Don Jr., tweeted yesterday asking you to direct the EPA to reject the Pebble Mine in Bristol Bay, Alaska. It's a giant copper and gold mine, and the thinking is
Rejected in what way?
just reject its construction. The Army Corps of Engineers 2 weeks ago suggested it would be okay to proceed with the project, but it would. Sportsmen like your son are saying that it would be harmful to fisheries.
Well, I've listened to both sides. I don't know of the argument yet, but I would certainly listen to both sides. My son has some very strong opinions, and he is very
No, he can have his convention acceptance at the White House on the Rose Garden. That's actually a really good idea. There's nothing wrong with it.
much of an environmentalist, and he was very impressed with what we did yesterday, because that's one of the great environmental bills, and beyond that, ever signed since.
And music is my aeroplane.
Well,
is
I guess over
my
100 years, if you think about it. It's been a
aeroplane.
long time. But I will look at both sides of it. I had heard about it. I understand they're going to be doing a briefing sometime over the next 48.
Yeah, he did say aeroplanes, and that's how it happens. What you do is there's a big ramp, and then you go very slowly down the ramp like a Trump walk, and then you shoot it off like that, and off. Those are called. This happened the colonial times, how they flew the aeroplanes. They called them aeroplanes because you pull them back down the ramps, and then you shoot them off the ramps, and that's where in the part of the song where the ramparts. That's the parts of the ramp. That's how you would do the airplanes, and those were the original airports, which or aeroports. We've just shortened it in a common colloquial vernacular. So that's a lot of people were confused when he gave that speech because they just didn't understand how history works. So read up, libtards.
Hours. It's going to go very quickly. I've done a lot for Alaska. I love Alaska. It's a special place. Anwar was one thing. The highway, Cove Highway, or whatever the new name is, whatever the old name is. We're getting approvals for a tremendous highway that's been sought for 40 years. They've been trying to get it approved, and I'm getting it approved. We've done a lot for Alaska. It's a special place.
Yeah, you
and
just
I'll
said
take
that.
a look at that. It's interesting. Yeah, please go.
He's on loop today.
President, two brief questions. First, your administration is.
Hey, whatever happened to John with the New York Times? Is anywhere? I forget his last name. Very large man, very rotund, gray hair, beard. Is he okay? Did he retire?
Praised ambulance drivers and
Oh,
ambulance
hey,
drivers.
it's him. Wow, thank you, Fates.
For their role in dealing with the coronavirus. And recently there has been scuttlebutt that the ambulance associations, drivers and all, have not been fully reimbursed for the
Oh,
work
dear.
they're doing. They said they are owed $2.89 billion, and they've only received $300 million from the Provider Relief
Not
Fund.
300 billion, no.
What,
Not 300.
million?
You mean 300 million?
At the Provider Relief, they said they are owed $2.89 billion, and they've only received $300 million from the Provider Relief
Not
Fund.
300 billion, no.
What,
Not 300.
million?
You mean 300 million?
That's what he said. He said 300 million.
At the Provider Relief Fund at HHS. Are you going to look into this?
I will.
or
I
make
just heard of it for the first time. The ambulance people have done an incredible job, as have the doctors, the nurses, the frontline workers. Law enforcement has been incredible. The military, FEMA. I mean, I could name almost
Grocery
every
store-
group. I can't
grocery
tell you
store
every group
workers.
that's done poorly.
Grocery
But the
store
ambulance
workers, Uber
people have done
drivers.
it's a tough job too. Very dangerous job. Very tough job. I will certainly look in. I mean, you're telling me something that for the first time. Nobody is complaining about not getting paid too much, but we'll take a look at the ambulance drivers.
The other thing, Secretary Esper said today that based on what he had heard, the incident in Beirut he felt was an accident. Now, he's disagreed with you on other things before. Do you have any comment about his remark?
Whatever
That mask just gets an A for effort. It is trying.
if that's what he heard, I think that I've heard it both ways too. I've heard accent, I've heard, explosives, and obviously it must have been some form of explosives. But whether it was a bomb intentionally set off, it ended up being a bomb. But no, I've heard it both ways. It could have been an accident, and it could have also been something that was very offensive, and I wouldn't be very happy with that.
No problem with
Just to
that.
follow up on that, Mr. President, even if you just have suspicion that the Beirut explosion is a bomb, do you have any plans of pertaining to U.S. assets in the region, for example? I mean, how are you looking into this?
We're working very closely with the government, and we're working very closely with many different agencies, including the military, and we'll be able to figure it out. We already probably have figured it out. Thank you very much.
But he doesn't know. We probably have figured it out. I have no idea. It's not like I'm the head of the military, commander, chief guy.
Everybody.
I hate this house.
President Trump leaving the Brady briefing room. Good evening. Welcome to
What's the
Washington.
takeaway?
I'm
What's the
Mike
takeaway,
Emanuel,
Fox?
in for Brett Baer. President Trump says if Democrats put aside partisan politics, a deal on a new coronavirus stimulus package could be accomplished. The president also says he's exploring an executive order to
If the Democrats do what we say, we can make a deal. That's the man who wrote Art of the Deal, folks. If the other side does what I say, yeah, serious mask. No, that's I don't think he's with the New York Times anymore. And I could be wrong about him being in the New York Times in the first place, but he's been, I don't know, he's been MIA for a while, or maybe he just hasn't been called on in a long time, or it's just completely slipped my mind. But that mask, you got to give it kudos. Let's see what's going on in the chat room here. Janice said something important. I'm going to go over here to the YouTubes so I can catch up more on the chat. Okay, it looks like Jana said something important here. Jana, what did you say? I gotta go back and find what Jana said here. There's so many of you in here today. Welcome, everyone. If you want to join us, you're welcome to any time in the chat rooms. The best place to do it is youtube.com/KevinLeeFather. If you want to become a patron, and the reason I was reminded of your patronage a few minutes ago is because at the beginning of the month, you guys get charged, and then a few days later, I get the deposit, and it's very nice to see that deposit in my bank account, which then I can just use to pay some bills, if you know what I'm saying. So I appreciate everyone who does that. Also, to all my PayPals, thank you very much. Producer Debbie, I haven't seen her in here today, but producer Debbie came through with extremely generous donation. I think that was Ouija. It sounded like her, but I'm not going to swear by it. Sometimes they show the commentators, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they put not the commentators, the correspondents. Sometimes they put their names up, sometimes they don't. If that is the back of her head, that could be Ouija. Oh, no, that could be Ouija. That could be either one of them. That is not Ouija. That could be Paula. The fact that we know their names. Pre-Trump, honestly, how many White House correspondents' names did you know? Now I recognize them by voice. I recognize senators by voice. And believe it or not, there are still some senators that I don't like. You see, his name is White House? He's a senator? Yes, there is a senator White House. But every once in a while, there's a senator from, I don't know, the junior senator from Wisconsin. And you're just like, how come I never hear? There's about 10 senators, Republicans, and about 6 Democrats that you hear about all the time, but most of the Republicans, because they have their own television network. They're a constant, and of course the congressional people as well, like Gates and Jim Jordan, etc. They're just on repeat. They're just on rinse and repeat on Hannity without the rinse. So we see that all the time. Weisha in blue, yeah, I think that was her, but I don't know. I don't keep track of the dresses. Yeah, it is. It's constant Charlie Brown. This whole presidency is Charlie Brown, except that I love Charlie Brown. This whole presidency is Peanuts without the P, except we had the P, but if that's on tape. Wouldn't it be great someday to find out that there really is a Russian P tape, but never to see it? I'm good. All I need to know is that it exists for sure. Somebody else can watch it, because I never want to see Trump involved with 2 hookers peeing on a Ritz-Carlton bed. No appeal to me whatsoever there. God. Yeah, I've seen the tape, though. It's on PHS. I preferred the beta format, but what are you going to do? I'm such a beta male. Okay, I think that's it for right now. They're done. Let's just jump over to one of the other networks and see if anything. Nope, they're not even talking about it on the other networks. Let's go to CNN. Let's see if they carried it. We'll go back a little bit. We're gonna join live and then jump back a few minutes to see if they carried it.
Doctor about Entyvio.
No, thank you.
Environmental bills and beyond that ever signed since.
Okay, so they did carry it. Let's go forward and see what the immediate. Oh, okay. So they showed. Is that Ouija? Ha! It's not going to help.
Pertaining to U.S. assets in the region, for example. I mean, how are you looking into this?
Nope, that wasn't Ouija. That's behind Ouija, but I can't see who that is.
Working very closely with the government.
But I think Ouija is sitting up there in blue, and she's gone.
Different agencies,
all right,
including the military, and we'll be able to figure it out. We already probably
what
have figured
foolish
it out.
game we play.
It is about 1,000 Americans dying a day.
Yeah, we're going to do the Axios interview. We might do that in a few minutes. Let's see, what time is it? It is 3:39 here. So, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, refill my giant chunks of ice, and I'll come back with the Axios interview. Let's shoot for, 20 minutes from now. So 4 p.m. Pacific time, we'll start up the Axios interview and see what happens. Okay, kids? We'll see you in a few. Here are some credits without Phyllis yet.
Kevin, is this helpful to Joe Biden?
Wait, what?